It's a new year, so what financial resolution should you consider to get the year off to a good start? I'm Erik Brenner. Join me right now for Your Wealth Health. Hello and welcome to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner, owner of Hilltop Wealth Solutions, and I am working remotely today as well as my panelists today. So thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year to everybody. It's certainly a new year. I know a lot of people wanted to get 2020 over with. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share us with someone that may benefit from the information, and we want to thank those of you that watch us on yourwealthhealth.com. And on my panel today is Bill Davis, a private wealth advisor for Hilltop Wealth Solutions, and Matt Arenz, our director of wealth management, and they are working remotely as well. It has certainly made history, 2020. The stock market actually did well with everything that went on. And as we move into the new year, many of you probably have your New Year's resolutions. And so we want to talk about some things that would be important to get a new year started off rightly from a financial situation. Let's start off with some quotes. The first one is from Dave Ramsey that says, "You've got to tell your money what to do or it will leave." Ronald Reagan, and I love this quote, says, "Money can't buy happiness, but it will certainly get you a better class of memories." And Ben Franklin, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." So let's invest in some knowledge and begin with some of those New Year's financial resolutions you should consider. So Bill, we put together kind of a list of what people should consider.
Yeah. So the first one on the list is stick to your budget and pay yourself first. To me, it's one of the biggest mistakes that we see people making is not setting aside money that they're going to dedicate for whether it be short-term, medium-term, or longer-term goals. And I think, as we all know, that without proper planning, our budget's going to, the money's going to come in and the money's going to go out. And at the end of the month, we're going to be like, oh, I didn't save. So systematic savings programs, I think, are the most important thing. And so if you get paid twice a month, you could save in a plan twice a month when you get your paycheck, because if you take it out before you spend it, I think you're going to be a lot better suited to save.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. So Matt, people ask us a lot on, how much should I be saving? Am I saving the right amount? So we have a graphic here on some averages that people should be thinking about when they get to certain stages in life.
Yeah, exactly, Erik. And this is, again, just a rule of thumb. Everybody's going to have their own individual situation, but it is a question we're asked often. And you can see on this graphic, it basically is saying, hey, at age 30, you really only need about one time your income saved. But when you're 50, about 5 times, and when you're 60, about 10 times. And again, it's a rule of thumb. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but it's going to help you at least have some bogeys, some targets that you can begin to plan for and obviously adjust accordingly.
So I think it's important on that graphic, to point out that, 2 times your annual income, meaning that, in your 40s, if combined you and a spouse make $100,000 a year, you should have $200,000 saved for longer term savings is what we're identifying, right? That it's not just your cash reserves and so forth. So the other thing, Bill, is, I think a lot of people, most people don't calculate what their worth is. And so why don't we talk briefly about what is a net worth and why is it important to track that?
Yeah, thanks, Erik. A net worth is calculated by what you own minus what you owe. And so we've developed a chart here that is pretty simple for people to understand. And that, net worth by age. So someone in their mid 30s, they might have an average net worth of about 76,000 would be the target. But we're seeing that the median net worth of most people in that age group is significantly less than that, which is concerning. And then you get to be between the ages of 35 and 44. The average net worth should be about 436, but we're actually seeing about 91,000 as the median for that age group. So kind of fast forward to a person that's getting ready to retire, someone between 55 and 64, we'd like to see a net worth of about 1.2 million. And just remind the audience that this is total net worth. This is total what you own minus what you owe. So it would be inclusive of probably your largest assets, your home, and your retirement plan.
Bill, thanks. And I know it's really beneficial, and we've seen it beneficial for someone that tracks that along the way, really to see, it's a progress report in a way on, helping people think about their financial situation. So, well, the time value of money, one of the things that investing has is that time value of money. And, more money makes more money. And saving early is certainly a factor. And so I know we've got a graphic, Matt, to really show the impact of the time value of money and saving early versus waiting, the differences there.
Yeah, exactly, Eric. And this is obviously, again, just some common numbers that we see, but it's basically showing if you started at age 25 versus starting at age 45. And you save for a 20-year period. And you can see from 25 to 45, you're not even actually saving all the way out to 65. And but if you save $12,000 a year with a 5% rate of return, you'd have about 1.1 million at age 65 versus somebody who just waited 20 years to start, got a late start on the savings, same rate of return, same savings amount, and they're going to have only about 428,000. So a pretty significant difference when you look at the value that time presents to an investor. And so, sometimes people just get started later, and that's okay. There's always a good time to start. It's kind of our strategy is don't delay. And even if you did delay, just begin to save as much as you can, as fast as you can, and allow time and your rate of return to help you out.
And thanks, Matt. And as we think about and help people along the way, this graphic to me shows a lot. First off, we're using a 5% return. It's not like we're using a 10% return.
Right.
And the other thing about rules of thumb, Bill, is, if somebody could, start off with saving 10% of their income, right? 10% of their income, just consistently saving that, over time, that is going to really accumulate to help them when it's time to retire.
Yeah, right. This graphic that you just shared, that's kind of showing a straight line prediction. And I always like to encourage people to, when they first come out of the blocks, get their first job, put that 4 or 5% in that probably gets a match in their 401k, and then look at boosting that every 5 years. Until they get into their 50s, they should be saving, 20-25% of their gross income. And again, so the earlier you start and the more you move that number north every few years. So if you get a pay raise, take half of it and allocate it to your savings. But you'll be well suited. You'll be surprised how quickly you'll accumulate assets for your goals if you just do it on a regular pay period basis.
And what I would encourage people to think about is, if you don't fall in that 25 to 45 and you're past that, still think about the savings because, again, we talked on the show a lot about longevity and life expectancies. And so even if you're 50, 55, you still have potentially a 40-year plus life expectancy. So you still want to think about that. There's still time to work that time value of money, even into your, 50s, 60s, 70s and later. So, well, thanks, guys. If you have questions about your budgeting, financial planning, insurance issues, tax issues, look, we want to help. We want to offer a free 30-minute consultation about these topics. You can give us a call at the number on your screen. That's 574-633-1476. Or you can sign up for a free 30-minute consultation at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. Still to come on Your Wealth Health, more of our New Year's financial resolutions, including how to prepare for the unexpected. And a little later, some basics of estate planning. Stay with us. Welcome back to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner, along with Bill Davis and our Director of Wealth Management, Matt Arenz, and we are all working remotely as we continue to work our way into and discussion on New Year's resolutions. So we want to talk about protecting for the unexpected. And so, Matt, it's really important for someone to think about how are they protecting themselves just in case things could happen medically, just protecting their themselves and their assets.
Yeah, that's a great point, Erik. I think one of the biggest risks that a lot of people are presented with is medically related when it comes to their finances. Doctor's visits, emergency rooms, those types of things are very expensive. And just being able to go someplace and know that it's not going to derail your financial plan is really important. And medical insurance is the first place. And so many people are offered that through work. It's something that they need to seriously consider getting on family plans, the types of plans that they have. It could be a PPO, it could be an HSA plan, high deductible. There's a lot to navigate there, and they need to work with their HR coordinators or their financial advisor to help determine what's the most appropriate for their situation. And for people who aren't provided that through work, the government exchange is available. Medicare obviously is a big, significant impact that people will still have. So there's just a lot of options, and it's a difficult topic to have. People can get very confused. It's expensive, and so you just need to really understand what putting dollars into medical insurance, what that can protect long term.
So life insurance. So Bill, that's kind of a big topic, because we get a lot of folks on, what type of life insurance should I take more at my employer? Should I buy life insurance? It can get expensive, so it may not work into that budget. So how should people think about protecting themselves with life insurance?
Well, life insurance need is a moving target. So early in your life, you have higher liabilities. You have younger children that are going to have to be provided for if something happens to you. And so it all starts with your group coverage. But I can tell you most employers don't insure more than about $50,000 group death benefit. And so that's just not enough, especially for younger people that have a mortgage and young children, that they have educational goals. They have a spouse that may or may not be working. We need to take that into account. So every single person's calculation is different based on their net worth, which we started in the first segment on, based on the desire for underage children and for a spouse, whether they work or not. So, most commonly we do not leverage supplemental insurance through the group employer because that tends to be more expensive because they don't allow to pick and choose who they insure. So we like to go out on the open market. I'm a big fan of 10, 15, 20-year term insurance. It's the least costly, and we can get some higher benefit, which people would be surprised how much they need when they start answering questions like, okay, would you like your children to go to college? Would you like your wife to be able to continue not working? The numbers can get big, and term insurance sometimes is the best solution. But again, you start the conversation by calculating the death benefit need, and there's lots of tools to be able to do that.
So as someone moves on, through their life and they get older, they start thinking about protecting themselves in the event of other potential things that could affect their financial situation, like long-term care needs. And now there's, long-term care insurance policies have gotten pretty costly just because there's a lot more need now. I think the recent stat shows that more than 50% of a couple, one of them will spend some time in care. And so we have these what we call hybrid policies now that help cover long-term care, Matt, and the life insurance need. And that might be something that someone should consider as they're getting closer to retirement and making sure all the pieces of the puzzle are in place.
You're exactly right, Erik. The product development is really it's really coming along over the last 20 years. And I think a lot of it has to do with the insurance company not knowing exactly how to price long-term care, what those costs were going to be. There's a lot of advantages of people taking advantage of home health care. So rather than needing full-on facility care 24 hours a day, they just need a nurse to come to their house. There's policies that can help educate and allow family members or spouses, somebody of that nature, to help take care of you and be compensated for that. So there's just a lot of different products out there. You have to know what you're buying. The consumer shopping pricing guide on that is really important, and that's state specific. So we always encourage people to just get a lot of information first before you begin to buy something, because that is an expensive product oftentimes, and you just want to make sure that the dollars that you're spending actually can be leveraged.
So also protecting your income, right? So if you become disabled, Bill, so a group policy there is really the way to go if that's available. But that's something that you should at least understand the risk and determine whether or not you want to help protect it.
Right. I mean, our experience shows us that the group policy is going to only protect up to about 50 to 60% of an employee's earnings. And because it's provided by the employer most often, it's pretty heavily taxed. So it's taxed as ordinary income. If we go out and we supplement that with an individual disability policy, that the income from that source would not be taxable, although it's a pretty expensive proposition, which I think is why fewer and fewer people have individual disability policies, unless they're a fairly high paid physician, lawyer, executive. Those people for certain need to have disability protection. But you need to understand what your group plan is and probably have a supplement on top of that to protect against loss of earnings.
The other thing there on our graphic that I want to mention is protecting your personal assets. And so this is a really good time to review your policies, your coverage on your auto and your home. And one of the things often we see folks miss is umbrella policies, Matt. These liabilities that, someone's net worth, we mentioned a net worth earlier in the show, if someone's net worth is above what their liability limits are, let's say on their auto, and they unfortunately get in an accident, their net worth is subject in any type of legal lawsuit. And so liability policies are very cost effective and often overlooked.
Yeah, you're exactly right. They are cost effective. And unfortunately, in these days, we do see people get a little trigger happy when it comes to suing somebody with a higher net worth. And so protecting against that is important. It's usually just a couple $100s a year, and you can provide additional liability, whether it's an auto accident or something happens at your home, one of your kids' friends slips and falls, something of that nature. It's really something to look at and extremely cost effective to protect against.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So if you have questions about your insurance policies, we can help, and we want to help. We offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation about insurance questions and other questions you may have about your financial and or retirement plans. Feel free to give us a call at the number on the screen. It's 574-633-1476, or you can sign up for your 30-minute consultation at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. 2020 was certainly a sobering reminder to many of us that life is fragile and it can end at any time. When we come back on Your Wealth Health, some basic steps you can take to make sure your loved ones are taken care of when you're gone. Stay with us.
Every year, thousands of troops leave active duty service and become veterans within their communities. The stresses for soldiers and traumas of combat can seem overwhelming. In 2013, 1 in 15 troops had a substance abuse problem. Substance abuse also contributes to 21 veteran suicides every day. Believe us, recovery is possible. At Life Treatment Center, we have pledged to provide struggling veterans with 3 meals a day, along with shelter and toiletries. Our Veterans Program works to ensure vets get specialized group and individual treatment sessions, case management, health referrals, mental health referrals, job assistance, among other service options. Life Treatment Center, committed to Michiana veterans. For more information, visit lifetreatment.org.
Welcome back to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner along with Bill Davis and Matt Arenz. And we're discussing today New Year's financial resolutions you should consider. And the next resolution to make it easier on your family is your estate plan and getting that in order. And so, Bill, this is really something that, we see a lot of new clients as well as existing clients. This is something that oftentimes just gets put off.
Yes, it's unfortunate that it does, Erik. And so from the graphic that we prepared for you, if you have underage children, if you have properties in multiple states, if you have wishes to keep money away from spendthrift family members that you're planning to grant money to in your estate, then you might consider having a trust established. So, but first, you need to have a financial power of attorney. We've seen a lot of COVID cases where people have been incapacitated and unable to complete their simplest of financial tasks, write checks, pay bills, things like that. So the financial power of attorney is going to be important in that area. But along the same lines, having healthcare powers of attorney and advance directives under the new HIPAA laws that is going to allow somebody to be able to be communicating with your caretakers, especially if you're on a ventilator or incapacitated in another way. And it's just commonly overlooked, or the documents were prepared long before the current laws in whatever state you're in. And so, also what could come into play is life insurance policies that may have the opportunity to utilize some of the death benefit prior to death, and then retirement plan documents as well.
Yeah, so we, unfortunately, as we do this and work with a lot of folks, and our advisor team has 115 plus years experience, and I know in my 27 years I've seen where, there's been situations where, unfortunately, someone passes away, and family members are not speaking to each other over a set of dishes. And so spelling out your wishes is really important. And Matt, oftentimes people say, well, yeah, I have an estate plan, but it's really just a simple will that maybe they printed it off online, and it's not really the entire estate plan, as Bill was talking about. All of these documents are important to get done.
You're exactly right, Erik. There's a comprehensive approach to your estate plan, which is really going to be important. And I think a lot of this also, to Bill's point, is, it just, the directives have to really be clearly stated. And we find oftentimes that after somebody gets an estate plan done, or even before, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to beneficiaries. They're not designated properly. They don't align. So they might have, you could have a child or an ex-spouse or somebody of that nature as a beneficiary on a retirement plan, and it doesn't align with what your will is saying. And so even with like life insurance as well, your life insurance policies, your retirement plans, your will, they all say something different. And we always tell people, you need to address that on an annual basis, review, make sure everything aligns with each other. Anything that is in a beneficiary designated type account will supersede what your will says. And a lot can be done just by the directives of the beneficiaries. And so you don't always need to have this huge, cumbersome estate plan, but you do need to have the documents in place, like Bill was talking about, so you can have the simple healthcare directives, the financial directives in the event that something unfortunate did happen.
And, just to add to that, I would say that if you have minor children, this becomes definitely an issue. If you do not have a directive as to if something happened to you, what would happen to, who would take care of your children, both taking care of them and raising them, but also who would kind of run the financials for them. And if there's nothing in place, then the court decides. And, so what I've seen over the years is people don't do an estate plan because they can't make their mind up, and it's just get something in writing You certainly can have successors, so you can kind of have one option, and then if they choose not to accept, it can be another option. But have something in writing is better than letting a judge decide. There's been situations where the judge will split up kids. They try to do the best that they can, but they don't know the family dynamics. So it's really important. Matt mentioned, Bill, about beneficiaries. So I want to touch a little bit more on that, because it is important, because beneficiaries, oftentimes people say, well, it's in my will. But if you have a beneficiary item, asset, whether that's a bank account, a retirement account, an IRA account, that's where it's going. So beneficiaries and making sure you have updated beneficiaries is really critical.
Yeah, and Matt brought it up, and that ought to be something that is a New Year's resolution to call your 401k provider and confirm what the beneficiary designation is on it. Pull out the old life insurance policies that you bought 20 years ago and confirm that the beneficiary designation is accurate by calling the life insurance company. Don't rely on anything else you have. Just make the call, and it'll take you 5 minutes to determine, because that is the most common slip up in an estate plan, is people think that the will is going to dictate where the assets travel to or go to, but the beneficiary designation always overrides the will. And so that's going to be bank accounts with PODs, investment accounts with TODs, transfer on death, beneficiary designations for everything else, including your group policies at work.
So, Bill, also trust. People ask, should I get a trust or not? And I know that's kind of a broad brush. It really depends on the situation, whether or not they need a trust.
Yeah, if you want to rule from the grave, that's most common. That the way to do it is a trust, and you may have younger children that can't handle the type of money that they're going to inherit, and that would make some sense, especially if you have disabled children. Disability trusts are important so that child is going to qualify for government benefits and won't be excluded because of the asset calculations that most government entities apply to a disabled beneficiary.
Yeah, great. Well, as far as a wrap up, one of the things that we wanted to share with people is, you don't have to do everything all at once. Really picking your keys as to what your New Year's resolutions are going to be. And so there's a lot you can do to improve your financial health. You want to take one step at a time. Make some real progress on your journey this year. And if you need some help, we're going to offer that complimentary 30-minute consultation to answer your questions. So you can give us a call at the number on the screen, which is 574-633-1476. And you can also sign up for your 30-minute consultation at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. Well, that's all the time we have today for our show. I want to thank Bill Davis and Matt Arenz, and the entire staff at Hilltop says thank you and Happy New Year. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. And until then, stay wealthy, Michiana.